It's a zombie movie.
It's not just a zombie movie, though, is it?
It's bizarrely like a rom-com.
Yep.
And I don't know how I know how I feel about it, but I think I disliked the first 30 minutes and was in love with the film by the end of it.
Certainly did the St. Elsewhere series finale a lot better than St. Elsewhere did.
Hello and welcome to Expected Own Goals, Kansas City edition. I'm your host, Eric Morgan.
I'm Evan Davis. This is the day where we thought would be most appropriate to drill down into the narrative of the 2025 Kansas City Current, because they will now officially be the greatest regular season team in NWSL history. I say regular season. We'll get into all the other records that they've set. But right. After their win over Gotham on Saturday, which could potentially be a playoff preview for the semifinal or even the championship, seemed like it was a good chance to really run down what this team actually kind of means, both to this season and to the history of the league itself. So that's going to be our big focus. Not necessarily about the Gotham game specifically, but about...
Not a lot there.
How do you beat this Kansas City Current in 2025?
It's a great question, and one we've been teasing for a while now.
Yeah.
And I think that not to give away things, but it's going to be hard.
It's going to be difficult. Yeah.
And I don't presume that we have any real answers to the question of how you beat the Kansas City Current, if I'm being honest. But before we get there, we're going to start with a little whip around. Taking a look at all of the games that we'll have, teams that are worse than Kansas City involved in them.
Yeah. Interestingly, the first game of the weekend, Chicago-Louisville, this was a game that had Louisville won it. I mean, their playoff hopes were all but assured. But even in having a comeback draw, their odds are still, I think, at 96, 97% now. 95% officially.
Yeah, what they've done is they've kept Angel City and technically Houston and definitely North Carolina alive. And I felt like for this particular game, what was really disappointing was this was there for Louisville's taking.
Yeah, I think there was just a lot of finishing luck that they were dealing with. I mean, to their blame, they did not manage the game state well again, which is why Jamise Joseph has an opportunity to score.
It's a great goal.
Yeah, it's a great goal. I mean, it's a great finish.
Yeah.
Particularly. And then Ludmila is extremely unlucky not to hit the dagger right at the beginning of stoppage time. So that is still an issue. But also, Louisville were playing like they were supposed to be the dominant force in the game, which is probably not the wrong way to play. I mean, they were pouring bodies forward. It's just that a lot of early shots, I mean, like there was that sequence with the Katie O'Kane, Sarah Weber right after the start of the second half. Either of those shots go in. I mean, Chicago's not coming back from that, even with Louisville's game management struggles. So, I mean, good on Louisville for being able to flip the script and get an equalizer at the death, thanks to Bethany Balser. But yeah, it's the same old Louisville problem in a game where you thought 3 points were kind of a gimme, and they should have been, again, based on just how much XG they generated. But, you play high risk, high reward, you open yourselves up to counterattacks. And Chicago, at the end of the day, didn't play all that badly, really.
No, Chicago is sort of more of what they've been in the second half, which is a team that can get at you and is a little dangerous and does have weapons that they've figured out how to activate at certain points. That said, this was a game that I think, if Louisville had cash in hand after the North Carolina game, they squandered some of it here. I don't think it's going to cost them when it's all said and done.
Yeah,
but this is not the way you want to see a team going into the playoffs playing one of their final home games.
Yeah, to put it into the mindset, I'm going to have to very quickly put myself into the Las Vegas mindset. They bet some of their cash on red and hit black a couple of times, but they're not in the hole yet. Not even close, to be honest.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that they are a more, and we'll get there, but they're a dangerous team that is probably better than 8th place, but now are in 8th place and may remain in 8th place.
Yeah, it seems likely that is how it's going to shake out, given everybody's schedules, where everybody's at in points. That 8th place is probably where they're going to finish. And that's a bummer because then they get Kansas City in the quarterfinals.
Yeah, but also, to be fair, Kansas City would probably prefer a number of other teams over Louisville. You know,
maybe
for your first opener.
We'll put a pin in
there.
That.
Yeah. All right, let's go and talk about
some playoff decisions that were solidified.
Yeah.
Want to go to Orlando, Portland.
Yeah.
A game that Orlando kind of didn't deserve to win, but then again, maybe the Thorns didn't either. Regardless, by the end of the weekend, thanks to a couple other results, the Pride had secured a playoff place, and now they seem to be this week's crap team who might scam their way into a home playoff game of the week. It was Seattle last time, now it's Orlando this time.
Yeah, and again, like I think Portland came out, they were ever so slightly the better side for parts of this game. I'd say it was kind of a wash between these two teams.
Again,
for long stretches. Raylan Turner got open, Olivia Moultrie's passing, full display. They still didn't turn any of that into a goal.
Because I think it's a tactics and personnel problem. Andre Carlisle in his newsletter this week was like, this makes the Peyton Linehan trade even more bizarre because Raylan Turner is probably the number 9, a drift, out to in kind of number 9. Rob Gale's playing her wide. Mm-hmm. And when you do that, you don't have any striker available to you. So if you don't think that Turner should be playing through the middle, or at least play that sort of like inverted inside forward who ends up in central places of the penalty area, then you don't have anyone else who can be a central target. That's an issue. Mm-hmm. And it bore out. I mean, 0.07 XG per shot? It was not a dominant attacking display. And yes, maybe they didn't deserve that really embarrassing own goal that Mackenzie Arnold kind of coughs up. Well,
it was Mally McKenzie who coughs up the own goal. It's off her face and then past Mackenzie Arnold.
Yeah.
So it's a McKenzie problem.
Yeah, but it's also the lack of communication because Mackenzie Arnold doesn't know how to command her area on crosses. She can't handle rebounds, and so there just wasn't a lot of communication in the spacing on that corner from Marta between her and Mackenzie, and then you get what you get.
Yeah, it was a training ground error that happened in the game.
That's right.
And, I think that puts Portland in... Look, they have Angel City away, Houston at home. That's still a softer schedule. You'd still expect them to pick up points, particularly in that Houston match. Mm-hmm. But they are...
Top 4 seems to have slipped away.
I mean, maybe. It's close.
It's open, but we actually were able
we're between 33 and 36 points through 8th. I mean, it really is... Anybody could end up anywhere, but Portland is lower odds.
And I will say that the Trevor Larner... ELO model right now gives Orlando a 71% chance to make top 4, Gotham a 59% chance to make top 4, Portland 26%. So it could happen. It's in play, but they needed a win to really put themselves in a really comfortable position to make that happen.
Where's Seattle in that top 4?
They're on the same level, 26%. To make top 4.
Let's talk about that game in particular.
A game where they played well?
Yeah. So if you've been following the pod, you know that for the playoffs, Evan is keyed to eat a Seattle dog.
Yeah.
For every single time the Seattle Reign get a shot during the playoffs. This is potentially a huge problem if they play like they played against Bay.
Yeah. Sure. The thing is, they don't play that way against the way they did against Bay very often. In fact, I think only maybe a couple of times this season where they've been able to eclipse a better than average XG per shot value for their attack. And I mean, they were good for the win. There is no question about it. Yeah, but that I think maybe has more to do with the fact that it's very easy to play through Bay, and they are not going to necessarily sit back and allow Seattle to just kind of do their we don't want to attack thing. They'll try and push up on you, and then there will be space at the back to exploit. if you want to exploit it. And Seattle was more than happy to exploit it.
Yeah, I think that's right. I also think that...
And there wasn't a win. It was a draw. But still, I mean, it was probably a draw that should have been a win.
Yeah, but also Bay get an early-ish goal, and then Seattle have to play on the front foot. And for the first time this season, they really look pretty competent doing that for stretches of the game. They certainly could have had a second goal somewhere in there. Yeah. They end the day with, 1.67, 1 point...
Depending on the model.
XG.
Yeah. Again, a rarity for them to be generating an above-average value amount of quality chances.
But again, this, like on 26%, this not very good football team could end up with a home playoff game.
Yeah. I know. And the deck is shuffling. Orlando did not seem like they would be capable of cracking the top 4, and now they're in third. And that's just a matter of a single match week.
Yeah, again, I think that even though there's some real disparity in the prediction models, there's been so much parity in this league with 3 points separating third through eighth. I think you're a lot more likely to see some bouncing around between those places than you are any of those teams falling out of the playoffs.
Oh, and we've already seen it over the last 2 or 3 weeks. Yeah, no question. I mean, it seems like the top eight's solidified. It's just a matter of where, like 3 through 8, or maybe 3 through 7, if you think Louisville's tagged for the last spot, where everybody's going to go.
Let's move on and talk about San Diego and Utah.
Oh, God. Must we?
No. This is a fun game. This is a fun game.
It was fun in that...
I feel bad for Mandy McGlynn.
10 shots were taken in total, and 5 of them found net.
Yeah.
Not a single one of them was a quality chance. By which, again, we mean an XG of 0.15 or higher. Not a single one of those 10 shots. And somehow, we got a 3-2 scoreline.
You have some real finishing luck. What you really have is some really bad clearing of the lines. You have a lot of like junk balls. And then finally, the game winner is this cross shot that Mandy McGlynn really, really struggles to deal with.
Yeah.
And kind of has an uncharacteristic howler. I normally associate her howlers with passing. And it's because she's so good at passing.
Right.
But you don't really see her often like mistipping a ball over the goal.
Yeah. I mean, what else is there to say? It was just this weird fluke of a mistake. It's not going to be repeated. It's just tragic that it was ultimately the thing that decided the match.
Yeah, that's more than fair. Let's move on and talk a game we both attended yesterday. The Angel Cities 2, Houston absolutely nothing.
Another example like Seattle Bay, where a team that has not put in a lot of good performances, especially in the second half, put in one of the best performances maybe they've ever put in like their entire history. But they were also playing Houston. And Houston, a team who knew they kind of needed a win in order to feel more comfortable about their playoff hopes. Yes, they're still technically alive, but they got to win both games and have other results go their way.
Which is also true for Angel City.
Exactly. Now they're both on 27 points, so this is the situation. And so I say all of this to say that like Houston couldn't play like a low block, try and stay comfortable shell game. And Angel City, like when their attack looks good when they have space to move into.
Both of these teams needed a win, and only one of them showed up to play like they needed a win. Angel City did that. They generated an all-time high in XG for the club, or close.
It's the XG margin that's the interesting thing, and it depends on the model. Like FB Ref and Opta have it as like this is the best non-penalty XG margin of all time in regular season play. ASA is a little bit softer on that. It's like a plus 1.5 by the ASA model. But that's still a lot, and it's not something we've seen from the team of late, i.e. they put in a great attacking performance and they put in a great defensive performance.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that this is the closest we've seen to like probably what Alex Strauss wants.
Yeah, he said that last week that this was like how the team was going to look, but it was a much cagier performance against a very weakened Kansas City. So like how much can you count that? This week, he rolls out the 3-4-2-1 again. Everybody actually seems to look comfortable. Again, Hina brings a great measure of calmness to that midfield. And in addition to seeming to get their tactics and their personnel right, they put in the performance that should match that.
Yeah, Hina already is making a big difference just in her combination play through the middle. She just provides a level of stability that I don't think Angel City's really kind of ever had.
No.
In the middle of the park.
At least not with any level of consistency, because you have good number sixes on the ball in the past. Julie Ertz when she was here, Amandine Henry when she was here. But none of those players were here for very long. Then the Alana Kennedy, Katie Zellenfeld experiments demonstrated that they don't have much in the way of ball control at this point in their careers anymore. So Hina is at the peak of her prime and has demonstrated her bona fides with Portland for years and with Japan when she's called up. So this is the right player for what Strauss and Mark Parsons are up to. It's just kind of nice to see that it's yielding some dividends almost immediately.
Yeah,
which wasn't necessarily a guarantee.
Anyway, the touch is the thing that we're all here to really talk about. Jun Endo sort of with a semi-scorpion back of the Achilles, but very conscious touch right into Neuhaus's path.
Myra Noose. Yeah, it's a long volleyed back heel flick into an oncoming runner's path that takes out two defenders and allows for Abby Smith to be caught in no man's land.
Yeah, I think the thing that's so stunning about this is when you slow it down, you see Endo, and we've always thought she's like a real magician, and this is the most magician-y she's ever been. You see her both scan and pick up where her attacker is, read where the ball is, and then perfectly play. This is so much intent behind this touch that it's just, for me, it's one of the 5 or so best touches I've ever seen. I posted that from our account. I know,
sure did.
And like I've watched way too much soccer, and that's like right up there with like the Giroud Scorpion goal that won the Puskás Award, and like it's completely insane. And also, I remember thinking, like, when it happened, God, let this turn into a goal. Don't let this just be a great touch. And Abby Smith really does bail out the situation.
I asked Myra Noose in the post-game presser what was going through her mind before Endo took the touch, because it's not necessarily a situation where you expect to score a goal like that in that situation, because not too many people can make those kinds of touches. And, her young 21-year-old confidence through a translator said, well, I thought she could do it. Like, I've seen her do it in training. And in my mind, I'm like, yeah, I'm sure you have seen Jun Endo do that in training. But much like in baseball, the difference between raw power and game power can sometimes be rather large. And not everybody who can get to their raw power in batting practice can get to it when they're facing 100 with wipeout sliders. And similarly, Jun Endo can't always make that touch and do it in such a way that you are going to set up, a brain-breaking, counterattacking goal. It's just harder to do, especially in such a physical and fast league like the NWSL.
Yeah, I think this is a real candidate for goal of the season, and it's because it's
because of the assist.
It's because of the assist.
Yeah.
But also it's because, Abby Smith, this is in no man's land, and by that I mean really in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And gets dribbled around and has that moment that all goalkeepers have when they're caught outside the box, which is, I should dive and try to stop this with my hand, and then realizes, no, I'm 35 yards from goal. I actually just need to haul ass and hope a bad touch happens, but I'm probably DOA.
Yeah, I mean, both the goals were high XG chances, but the reason they were high XG chances is because everybody got treated to the Abby Smith experience, by which I mean, this is how she's always played, but she is only effective when she has a really effective, really aggressive, counter-pressing defensive structure playing in front of her. So when she was the number 1 at Gotham in 2023 before she got hurt, she looked like the best goalkeeper in the league, both by shot stopping and also by how well she could snuff out attacks before they could turn into anything dangerous because of her sweeping. Like, she wants to be a sweeper keeper. When you are dealing with Houston Dash's backline, which, all things considered, as we talked about on Patreon last week, is not the worst back line in the world this year, thanks to some of the stuff that Fabrice Gautrat and the additions of some personnel have made them. They're still not the Gotham back line that won a championship 2 years ago. And so you always run the risk when you are that far out from goal that if the right touches happen where the opposition can get around you, well, they're going to pass into an open net. And that's what happened, you know? And this is also kind of why Abby Smith has never been a consistent starting number one in the league. It's a season here, it's a season there, but it's a lot of time as a backup because you have to know that your defensive tactics can be built around that kind of goalkeeping style.
Yeah.
And Houston's kind of isn't. And it's not like Fabrice Gautrat ever expected for Abby Smith to be the number one. I mean, he tried her out middle of the season. I think he wanted to see how that could work. She was fine, but he went back to Jane Campbell, and now Campbell's hurt, and here we are again. It's a tough thing. And both goals, even the first goal, even the Kennedy Fuller goal, the high XG kind of comes from the fact that Smith plays it pretty poorly, you know?
Yeah, it's all fair. Let's go to the other game this weekend that involves the return of a goalkeeper, Casey Murphy, to the starting lineup. North Carolina, Washington, 1-1.
Weird game. I mean...
Weird game. Murphy had a nice game.
All things considered. Washington came into the game knowing that they were the 2 seed, that was locked up, thanks to Kansas City beating Gotham earlier that day. So their 11 was already set. That wasn't going to change based on results. But as Adrian Gonzalez said in the post-match presser, their sub-strategy changed because of that knowledge. So they brought on a lot of people and they took a lot of big players off earlier in the second half because they knew that the result wasn't really going to change anything for them. So they wanted to get people rested and get some bench players rotated in. So it's a funny one to think about, at least from a Washington perspective. I mean, North Carolina had to win this game to have any kind of hope to get over the line. Because right now that they've drawn and now that we know everything else that's happened, they're sitting 7% to make the playoffs.
It's really bad. They are undone first by some offside calls that pull goals back.
Yeah.
I think all are correct, but still undone by that all the same. And then they're undone by Trinity Rodman just with one of the better finishes, like a true sort of like world class like finish. She beats her defender, cuts in on her left foot, and then curls it around. You know what could have been 6 or 7 goalkeepers, and it wouldn't have mattered.
It's a 0.05 xG chance, and yet it seems like a no doubter because of the way that she Rodmans it.
Yeah, it's another one of those where, like, if you are in the right position with the right stride and have the time and the space and are that good, you can overperform a chance like that a lot of the time. There's, for a 0.05 XG chance, I think it's one of those where we would say, yeah, shoot. She has time and space. And in North Carolina, from that point on, it's just too little, too late. And Washington is a very good team. And
Washington controlled the match for long stretches of the second half. And it wasn't really until the last 10 or 15 minutes that North Carolina was really able to make a push. And they get a goal out of it. But who cares? Washington certainly doesn't care. And a draw wasn't good enough.
No, all of that's fair. It's a really disappointing end. And it's not the end mathematically, but it feels pretty close to the end for a very chaotic North Carolina season.
Yeah.
I think that the addition of Peyton Linehan, who we mentioned earlier, is probably a good thing for them.
In the long term.
Yeah, Ashley Sanchez was back. That's nice as well.
Yeah.
But all things, this is sort of a lost season for North Carolina.
Yeah. And for so many reasons also off the field.
Yeah.
Like, it's time to turn the page.
Painfully fair. So that's the whip around, and now we are going to our featured match of the week, which we're not going to spend a lot of time on, and we're just going to talk Kansas City. But let's talk about that match right now. Kansas City 2, Gotham 0.
Yeah, I mean, pretty straightforward. I guess maybe the surprise is just like how toothless Gotham looked. And, there are caveats. Again, Jason Gabi Portillo out of the lineup means They're sort of back to square one with how they reshuffle the extra winger position. And other than that, you would think, I mean, Katrenberger's out. But I don't
think that made a difference.
I don't think that made a difference. And I also don't anticipate that being particularly long term. And Kansas City didn't really hit the gas all that hard. But at the same time, of the chances that they had, they were generally pretty damn good ones, particularly the Chewinga goal.
Yeah, very much so. They were in full rotation mode. Chewinga starts on the bench.
Yep.
They grabbed their first goal after a pretty subdued first 30 or so minutes on a corner kick that Bia just heads home. And the problem that you have against Kansas City that is sort of unique against them, as opposed to any other team, if you just go down, with 60 minutes left to play in the game, is that when you go down to Kansas City, there's probably no way back.
Yeah.
And in this particular game, that's sure what it felt like once Bia's header went in. We go to halftime and they bring on Chewinga, which is a cheat code, when you're already leading, and Chewinga finds a goal very quickly, and the game is absolutely dead after that. There just wasn't a ton that Gotham created throughout the game.
No.
Did you feel like Gotham were sort of saving their bullets after they went down, or do you feel like Gotham is genuinely this far off of Kansas City when it comes to seeding a little game state and then struggling to get back in it?
It's a good question. I don't know. Maybe they were taking their foot off the gas, and there's certainly an argument to be made that these are two teams who want to hide their cards because they might be facing each other in a semifinal. So I could kind of understand that. And neither team really cares so much about the result. Gotham obviously cares more because they really want to make sure they get top four. And a win, or at the very least a draw, would have certainly helped those odds. Like I said, the Larner-Eno model puts them at 59%. Would have been a lot higher if they had come away with some points here. But maybe they are. I mean, again, it's this thing of, we'll talk more about Kansas City's way of doing this, but the ways in which Gotham can't seem to manage a consistent attack when they don't have all of their bullets in the chamber is kind of interesting, because Kansas City is almost the polar opposite of that. Because, I mean, I guess I'll say this now. I mean, there are only 2 games out of 24 all season where all 4 of Kansas City's primary attacking weapons, Debinha, Chewinga, Bia, and Cooper, have started a game together. 2 games. And it hasn't fucking mattered. Can you say the same about Gotham? Because they've had to deal with the same levels of rotation too. You can't say that about them.
No, I think that you bring up a really good point, which is the dividing line between Kansas City and most every other team in this league. And maybe every team in this league, bar Washington, who also have not necessarily had whatever their ideal front is together ever at once. It doesn't matter for Kansas City in the way that it matters for every other team to have all of your pieces. And that makes them incredibly difficult to game plan against and incredibly scary to play.
Yeah.
The idea that you can, with nothing on the line for Kansas City, control the game against one of the better teams in this league, find your odd goal, and then really control the game and shut it down. You know, this was both not a particularly impressive XG victory, but a very impressive, once the game state had gone where it was going, it was an asphyxiation. And Kansas City chokes a team out better than any other team in the league.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they may choke a team out better than any other team in league history. I do just want to note, because you want to talk about, like, did they save their bullets? Did Gotham save their bullets for the playoffs and just to manage minutes? They didn't really have a lot of substitutes they could go to.
Sure.
You know, like, if they were saving bullets, it didn't seem that way because they were all out on the field.
That's fair.
Based on, like, who was available from the injury report.
As much as it is important for Gotham to get points, there are still points for them to grab in their final 2 games. Overextending yourself on the road against Kansas City is probably not the place to go do that.
Yeah, I mean,
particularly when you go down with an additional 40 minutes left in the game.
Yeah, they got Louisville at home and they've got North Carolina on the road. Right now, we have them projected to get 3 more points from the rest of the season, and that'll get them top 4.
I think there's real value this year finishing 3rd over 4th.
Again, you avoid Kansas City.
You avoid
semis
Kansas City,
if
which
you
is
move on, yeah.
which is everything. I think the best thing that happened for Washington this weekend is that they secured avoiding Kansas City, avoiding any trip to Kansas City in the playoffs.
Yep.
If we end up with a Washington-Kansas City final, that'll be played on neutral ground in San Jose. But Washington's in the catbird seat of the other teams. Gotham has yet to secure their place on the right side of the bracket.
No question. So now this is a good time to transition to what we want to talk about today. We're going to do a little review of the Kansas City current season in broad strokes, what they have accomplished this year, how they've done it. And then after that, we are going to drill down into how you beat the Kansas City Current if you come up against them.
If you can.
If you can. And we're going to highlight a few games in the second half of the season against teams who might be giving them problems. And this is Louisville, this is Orlando, this is Gotham, this is Washington, this is Seattle. This is not Portland or San Diego. And maybe you might want to fight me on that.
Nope.
I don't think I want to fight me on that.
I don't. Here's what I'll say in favor of Portland and Kansas City, who we will probably not spend a lot of time on. Both have various ways to get at Kansas City. Portland has some firepower going forward. San Diego has a solid back line and an ability to play possession style.
Yeah.
As far as the performances this season are concerned, we have not seen that work yet in either performances so far against Kansas City. So, obviously on their day, either San Diego or Portland could beat Kansas City. Then that's all that's worth saying about them. They just haven't demonstrated anything that we've discerned as a way to do it yet.
Well, and also the ways in which they play rely much more on build out, giving a little bit of space, having the ball, and being comfortable on the ball. And Kansas City can just run roughshod over you. And you have to be an incredibly elite team with great, great players. In other words, you have to equal or better their talent in order to make a system like that work against Kansas City. San Diego and Portland don't have that. So while Kansas City, obviously they have a massive talent advantage, unlike Louisville or Seattle, probably even Orlando at this point.
For sure.
These are teams who play in a way that maybe could still cause problems even with that talent deficit.
Yeah. And again, like San Diego has a team defense style and Portland has Olivia Moultrie and Coffee. And those players would be relied on to beat Kansas City, but it's pretty edge casey. Let's go on. Take us through this.
Great. So this is a composite of all of the in possession formations that Kansas City has developed. As you can see, I mean, it's pretty classic 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1. Basically all depending on what you do with Claire Hutton and Lola Bonta is when you're moving from a double pivot to a single pivot, whether you're building out, whether you're in transition. That's how they have tended to look. And the right back drops in, creates the 3-2 rest defense structure with the 2 central midfielders in order to shore up the most dangerous areas where they could be exposed on the counterattack, which, by the way, they are historically good at. Rest defense is very popular in modern defensive tactics or modern offensive tactics because it's really it's an in possession tactical thing, even though it reaps defensive rewards. It's just that Kansas City probably does it better than any team, certainly in the women's game and obviously in the NWSL.
Yeah.
So as you can see,
you sort of see the trapezoid right here of trouble.
Yeah. You have Izzy Rodriguez, who is pulled inside, not always pulled inside because you like to have her as a fullback offering you width because Temwa Chawinga, her specialty, as everybody knows, loves to cut inside on her right foot and occupy that inside forward space. And Bia Zanerato, it's really funny. Jordan Angeli mentioned on the broadcast during Seattle Bay about how Jordan Huitema doesn't score a lot of goals, but she's not your goal-scoring number 9. She does a lot of other things. And that, I don't believe, really can be honestly said about Jordan Huitema. It can be honestly said about Bia Zanerato.
Sure.
A, because she is a goal-scoring threat. But B, as a false nine, she is essentially functioning as your primary passing danger when you are breaking that final line and getting into the box. It's coming from your center forward. That's weird. Teams don't always see that. And therefore, it's a really helpful tool to ensure that Chewinga always has space to do her thing and keeps center backs honest, because you always have to deal not only with the goal scoring threat of Bia, but also the passing threat.
It means that there's a gravitational pull for center backs out of where they'd like to be because they want to track. And often, particularly when teams are playing a flat back four against them, it means one center back is following Bia and therefore creating more space. And that space has not just been exploited by Temwa, though classically is with a left-sided overload, has also been exploited by Michelle Cooper.
Yeah.
So you have the problem of anytime you have that center forward sort of dropping in to receive the ball, the shape automatically sort of scrunches, therefore creating more space depending on where you're overloading, mostly on the left, but on both sides.
Yeah, and this I think probably doesn't quite capture the general like Michelle Cooperness of it all. I mean, obviously when you have her moving inside, it can create a nice triangle either with Bia and one of the central mids, whoever's pushed up higher, whether it's Hutton or Labonta.
More often Hutton this season.
More often Hutton this season. And it can also do the same thing with Hutton and either Haley Mace or Ellie Wheeler when the right back is starting to move ahead. But where Cooper's bread and butter has lay is giving you genuine crossing and maybe even more importantly, cutback danger when you stretch over here.
Yeah, I also think the other thing that you really have to talk about with Michelle Cooper is the amount of off-ball running she does, the amount of just raw stretching that where she isn't on the receiving end of the ball.
Yeah.
That still creates a lot more space. So she is one of the more dangerous, she's very dangerous as an on-ball winger. She's also quite dangerous in just forcing your defensive shape out of where it wants to be. And that's something that Kansas City's been so consistently good at.
And it's important to note that like what we're looking at here is when they're getting touches. This is their in possession general shape, so it's not showing you what they're doing off the ball offensively or defensively. And so, yeah, Cooper, and this is what's so nice, nice work if you can get it. If you can have, Debinha out here and Chewinga and Bia and Cooper all being global elite, world-class attacking threats at their positions, because no defensive unit can just key on one, maybe two players and not have to worry about exposing space elsewhere. Like if you are focusing on one area, you are giving up something in another area. And you might think, just double team Temwa Chewinga. And teams have done that, especially in the first half of the year when Chewinga was often cutting a very frustrated figure because she would just get double marked and not get off a lot of high quality shots. It would ultimately not matter, especially as we moved closer and closer to the international break, because all of these other threats, especially when Cooper and Bia got healthy, that you had to contend with, because you lock Chewinga up. It's not as though everybody else is chopped liver.
No. I think the other thing that needs to be stated here is because of the way Bia drops in, it alleviates the responsibility of Debinha to be the sole creative force there.
Oh, yeah.
And it forces, essentially, it creates opportunity because there is no fulcrum in this team. And so many other teams, like we were talking about Portland a minute ago, Olivia Moultrie is a fulcrum.
Right.
Kansas City is fluid and can move around with an attacking four. We talked about this, I think, on the Patreon. But the other thing that's like so scary about this Kansas City team is they really can just attack with four. And they can leave, and it's what makes their defensive structure so sound. Yeah. They will attack with five. They can attack with only four. And when they attack with only four, they are never out of position defensively.
Yeah, what you're seeing here, and I kind of misspoke. I mean, Cooper can form a triangle a little bit deeper, and she loves to come deep when she has to with Hutton. I mean, the really dangerous one is when she is combining with Debinha here. And Debinha, sometimes she's labeled as a winger, sometimes she's labeled as a striker, sometimes she's a classical number 10. She can play pretty much everywhere, but she is doing what I think a lot of people think Marta can continue to do with Orlando. Debinha is actually doing it, and it's the reason that Debinha was probably a shout for MVP before she got hurt earlier in the season, because she then gets to be the spare player that floats and allows for interchange and fills space when somebody else wants to vacate it.
Yeah. Again, these ideas don't necessarily work on every team, but because of the caliber of player that Kansas City has in all positions, and because of what those players do in terms of alleviating by attacking with only 4 or attacking with 4+1 being a fullback a lot of the time, they're just never out of position defensively. All right, let's move on.
Yeah. So this is the defensive structure that they have employed. They've always had a back 4 all year. What you can see is that their rest defense structure is pretty clearly laid out. If you're looking at the graphic on the left, you've got the left back or the right back prepared to drop a little bit deeper. The right back position is a little bit closer to the right-sided center back. But that's just appropriately illustrative. 30.1 meters, the average height that they make a defensive action, is kind of average. What makes them special is if you look at the average height that their defensive actions are occurring anywhere on the field from any player. More than 43 meters, that's third in the entire league. They love to get high. They love to press. And everybody knows they have probably the best defensive forwards across the line in the league, and it's what allows them to be so dangerous. It's also what allows them to be the 0th percentile in G+ allowed in their own third in every single channel across the defensive third. Like, it's not the 1st percentile; it's the 0th percentile.
Yeah, I think as far as we're as far as talking about like how do you even beat this team, one of the better ways you can beat this team, and it is not a it's not a repeatable thing, is to score on a set piece real early in the game and force them out of whatever structure that they have. You kind of need to jump them.
Yeah.
All right.
I think that's right. So this is their expected. No, you didn't enjoy that.
I'm sorry. Just explain what this chart is. It's so funny.
So this is a.
I've not looked at this.
This is a. The laughter is important, as I will explain. This is a rolling non-penalty XG differential by a 5-game set from the beginning of the season. Basically, what it's trying to do is show you like game-by-game performances, but more smoothed out, so you're not seeing the really jagged up and down that you can sometimes get going game to game. Gives you a better sense of like how the team's actually performing in a given period. As you can clearly see, the blue line represents the XG you're generating. The red line generates the XG you're conceding. The black line is the average amount of XG a team generates and concedes in a single game, 1.25. It's around that. There is no team, basically in any league, that keeps their XG above average and keeps their XG allowed below average for an entire season.
That is exactly what I'm laughing about here. We're at the bar at Angel City postgame, and some lovely women came up and asked if they could split the table with us, and proceeded to get in arm wrestling matches with each other. And there was one woman who
it's the most Sunset Lounge shit of all time,
who was just so utterly dominant and just like putting her friends down.
Yep.
This graph is the equivalent of being that one woman putting all of her friends down. There's no weak or aberrant stretch in here. That's what's so insane about this. What this is just saying so consistently. The dominance that we are seeing in Kansas City's defense is the kind of dominance that you see in individual sports, like not necessarily in team sports, because in team sports it's very hard to have everything working at once. This is the equivalent of peak Rafa Nadal at the French Open. This is the equivalent of peak Serena Williams. This is the equivalent of I don't know, Katie Ledecky. This is a Katie Ledecky where just no one's close. No one's even bothered to be close. And this, I cannot emphasize enough, this doesn't happen in team sports. It happens for Barcelona in a league where they're better than ever. This does not happen in salary capped leagues. In team sport settings.
It delights me so much how much you're enjoying this, because you're absolutely, everything that you just said is absolutely right, and it's why I wanted to show people this. And another part that I really wanted to
This is
emphasize,
Lewis Hamilton for 7 years. Like, this doesn't happen.
I want to emphasize that there have been, I think, 2 games all year where they have lost the XG battle. But what I want to emphasize, and what this graph really lays out and makes more salient, is that if you lose the XG battle by more than 1, that's a very, very solid defeat. If you lose it by more than 0.5, that's a game where you're probably straying toward deserve to lose.
Sure.
If it's under negative 0.5, it's a game where, like, yeah, maybe you got a little bit outplayed, but maybe there were weird circumstances under the hood, yada, yada, yada. It's not necessarily a given that you should have lost that game. The 2 games where they lost the XG battle fall into that third category. And what a smoothed out sort of rolling 5-game graph like this shows you is that they were blips on the radar. They did not last. They did not represent anything about, like, how they were performing more generally, and therefore could be discarded as aberrant outliers. The other thing I want to note is that you can see how their attacking performance has maybe gone a little bit more up and down all year, but never below average, but a little bit with a little bit less consistency than maybe their defensive performance, because their defensive performance is a shocking level of not only consistency, but like world-beating consistency. Like, note that not one time, once we hit that sort of 5-game point, are they averaging 0.5 or more XG allowed per game.
This is where the never-ending cycle of you have superlative offensive talents that therefore allow you to be in the defensive right position. The thing that's so scary about Kansas City is that
they have the piano carriers.
Yeah, they have. That's exactly right. They have all the fucking piano carriers. And the piano carriers are never being asked to do things that don't involve carrying the piano. And the piano players are very good at what they're doing.
Yes.
And I think it's super important to emphasize here that their defensive solidity comes out of the superlative attacking talent, but also they have been doing this rolling XG without ever really playing their optimized lineup or without ever really being certain what their optimized lineup is, other than it probably has Temwa Chawinga and Dabinia in it. That you don't actually have to have all of those pieces. And frankly, like, they can even absorb like Ali Sentner getting minutes. Yep. Like that is sort of where that is like, and frankly, her numbers have gotten better since she joined Kansas City.
Yeah. Because
a rising tide on some level lifts all boats.
Yep. So if you want to see how they are shaping up to the rest of the league this season,
yeah, just do it.
That's
oh my God.
Yeah. This is your goals relative to the goals against all season. And what I love is that I'm going to flip to the next chart, which is your XG generated relative to your XG conceded. You're going to see some teams move around on this graph a little bit because everybody overperforms or underperforms their attack or defensive results a little bit. Watch where Kansas City goes. And we're going back. And we're going forwards.
Oh, like we're getting
and we're going back.
Like
and we're going forwards.
Like we're getting an eye exam. No, I think, again, I cannot stress this enough. This does not happen in football. This is, and everyone sort of holds aloft those North Carolina teams.
From 2017 to 2019. Yeah.
And those are great teams. And when you look back at those rosters, they're unreal rosters.
Yep.
This Kansas City team is not as flashy in terms of what the roster looks like, but the performances are more devastating than even those North Carolina teams. And those North Carolina teams are close.
Yeah, I would say that relative to the rest of the league in that season, that is true of Kansas City. At this point in time, North Carolina in 2018 is probably going to remain the, non-penalty XG differential champ across the season.
Different league,
but
more interesting teams that Kansas City have to face and beat.
Yes, but also North Carolina that year was closer to the rest of the league.
Yeah.
than Kansas City is to the rest of the league this season. So
of course.
while Kansas City's overall value is smaller than North Carolina's, they're better than their competition this year by a significantly larger margin than North Carolina's was.
All of this makes sense.
Yeah. So now let's talk about some of the records that they've broken this year. Fastest to the Shield with 5 games to go. No team has ever done that in NWSL history. 83% of their games have ended in a win. No team has ever done that.
I can't describe how impossible it is to go 22-2 in this league.
Yeah.
And they've done it. And I know Orlando last season was undefeated for longer stretches. Orlando needed a lot more draws.
Yep. Exactly right.
Kansas City has not allowed victories to become draws or losses to become draws. They've just been winning.
Yep. Points per game, 2.6. This destroys both in terms of like how they relate to the rest of the league in this season and in terms of the raw value, destroys the previous record holders.
Again, we're talking about on the level of, on the men's side, like the best Liverpool and Manchester City teams of recent years.
Yeah.
But also that's in a league where they can outspend, or particularly in Manchester City's case, can like put 500 million pounds of player on the bench.
Yeah.
Kansas City has no flexibility to do that.
Right.
Kansas City is doing this with the same set of rules as everyone else.
And the reason that we wanted to do this talk on main feed now this week is because after beating Gotham over the weekend, it is impossible for them to slide into second place on the all-time points per game chart.
Yeah.
No matter, even if they lose their final 2 games, they will hold that record all time. Non-penalty XG per shot, 0.12. That is an all-time record. They don't have the non-penalty XG record. They don't have the volume. They haven't broken the volume record that those 2017 to 2019 North Carolina teams had.
Because they don't need to.
They don't need to. They are much more efficient on their shots. They don't have to take as many shots, and the ones that they do take are devastating. Now, this is where they will probably be forever remembered in a just world. Like Chewinga and Cooper and Dabinia and Bia will be rightly and
in a just world.
They will be justifiably remembered for everything that they do. But the thing that makes this team world historic is their defense.
Yeah.
0.46 goals allowed per game. That is going to be an all-time record. 0.6 non-penalty XG allowed per game. That is going to be an all-time record, and it's not going to be close. The non-penalty XG per shot allowed, so they are beating you both on defensive results, defensive chance quality volume, and on defensive chance quality efficiency. Quality chances allowed per game, which is how many shots they give up with an XG value of greater than 0.15. They are destroying all comers in league history on that score. And just to put a little cherry on top, Lorena at 0.71 shot stopping index, which is just how many goals she allows per post shot XG she faces. She is tied for first all time with Lydia Williams playing for the Seattle Reign in 2017 for best shot stopping season in league history.
Yeah, I think, again, these numbers might not seem, particularly if you're a fan of European leagues, absurd. Like this is not like out of range of what a Lyon or Barcelona does in their own league. Those teams just happen to spend exorbitant amounts more than Kansas City, and Kansas City's not allowed to do that. Kansas City has put together, and again, this team, somebody asked me yesterday whether Kansas City has always been this dominant, and I was like, no, they missed the playoffs 2 years ago. And granted, that team was probably good enough to make the playoffs, but they weren't good enough to be like a great playoff team.
Yeah.
What they have done over these past 2 seasons, and particularly in this season, is, and a lot of it comes with the addition of Chewinga, but they have elevated themselves to a near untouchable level while having to face the same financial constraints. I mean, they're playing with the same budget that Utah and Chicago have.
Yep.
Angel City, using the same rules last year, got docked points for breaking the salary cap. Kansas City has had no such violation.
Nope.
And we don't anticipate such a violation.
No, and they were first movers on building a purpose-built stadium, building a purpose-built training facility, and an ownership group that is willing to spend to the cap all of those things in tandem means they got out in front of a lot of things even before Vlatko Ananoski and Temo Chawinga showed up. They had an advantage. And also, 2021, they were not good. They were probably better than their record. 2022, they make it to the NWSL championship. 2023, again, better than their record, probably playoff caliber, not world beaters. And then 2024 comes along where on paper they probably were the best team in the league, but just dropped.
But at least Orlando and Washington were in range.
Yes, they were absolutely in range, and that means that you end up flipping some coins when you face teams like that, and they were just on the wrong end of some of those results. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that the pieces being laid in place to get here have been laid for years.
Yeah,
this
absolutely.
didn't just all of a sudden happen.
Also, the other thing and it's crucial, and if you go back and listen to our preseason preview, the thing that to me is the biggest red flag is their age, and just like the average age of so many players on this team. And they've been so good and so deep that they've been able to manage those minutes and not run anyone into the ground, which is even more impressive. If they are this team might not be this good next year or the year after.
Sure.
They may be, but on this year in 2025, they have skirted Father Time quite nicely and have been able to execute at the peak of their ability with great depth.
Yeah. It's like Orlando this year. We expected some regression because they overperformed quite significantly last year. It's the same thing with Kansas City this year. They're overperforming their expected points by like 20 points. Yes, the underlying numbers are also incredible and also record-breaking at a lot of times, but there's no guarantee that the same 11 can go out and get 67 points in a season next year.
No, you're seeing something really special, and it's both overperformance and deserved.
Yeah.
Like it's that rare rare combination.
And it's why I think Vlatko Ananoski should be named manager of the year.
Yeah, certainly as we've gone down the stretch, I think it becomes abundantly clear to me that Vlatko is probably the choice.
So now Vlatko has some decisions to make. How to beat Kansas City. Only two teams have done it this year. North Carolina and Seattle. Both were 1-0 losses, and both were either
fluky.
Either fluky because Kansas City actually won the XG battle, or there were some pretty key pieces unavailable due to injury. But those are not the games that I actually want to focus on. So what we're going to do is we're going to start in the second half of the year with the opponents who I think, as we said at the top of the segment, might give the Kansas City Current some problems. Okay. So here we go. Week 14. They're on the road to Racing Louisville. They win the game 2-0. Pretty dominant performance all around, as you can see. In a vacuum, if you didn't know anything else about how the season went, you'd be like, oh yeah, of course, that makes all the sense in the world. Like one team fighting for a playoff spot who are not spending the same amount of money on players the way that Kansas City is, and Kansas City is beating all comers. Yeah, of course that would be the case. This was a game where Dabina came in off the bench. It was the first game after the Copa America, so she was knackered and not in any kind of position to run a full 90. But you can see, you can see the rest defense laid out pretty clearly. Hutton pushed up a lot higher than she normally would be, and Lacho Marta coming in as a replacement. And so not a lot of their key components necessarily had great games.
This is not a best 11 starting. It has some good pieces, but it is not their best 11 starting. And it's on the road, and teams that are very good can have off days.
Yeah, and you're coming out of an international break. Everybody's trying to find their sea legs. But as far as Louisville's concerned, they got beaten pretty handily. But if I go back to the game flow, the worst of it kind of comes in the second half when Louisville really does struggle with late game management. Is there anything about the way Louisville likes to play that makes you think they could have even a punter's chance? Given the way that they like to be physical, they like to be direct, they like to go over the top, they like to use Taylor Flint as a battering ram, using wingers to potentially stretch play, maybe get Izzy Rodriguez caught out a little high upfield. I mean, where do you see the vulnerabilities that Louisville in particular could exploit?
Okay, everything about Louisville's opportunity to beat Kansas City, and I think it's tough, but I actually think comes down to the individuals that they have on the field. I think Emma Sears is one of the more dangerous, probably the most dangerous goal-scoring winger in the league in terms of just her ability to, like, she gets her shot off at a high volume, especially considering how little Louisville have the ball. She is a person that will pin a fullback back. In this case, it will be Izzy Rodriguez because she will be going down the right. Kansas City likes to attack down their left primarily. So should there be effective overloading on the right side with Emma Sears, I think there's something there. I think Kayla Fisher is a problem when it comes to just physically manhandling your back line. I still don't think the individual talent is there to do it, but you have, if I'm Louisville, I'm thinking about peppering and trying to win corners and then letting Sears and Flint use their size on set pieces. And then I'm trying to let Emma Sears run free. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, and I wonder, just given the running threat that Sears represents, if Haley Mace is healthy, she starts at left back.
Entirely possible.
And, you use Ellie Wheeler on the right,
yeah.
and then specifically like invert the rest defense structure and bring Mace in so you have a little bit of a firmer hole to plug, and use Wheeler to push up a little bit. And they've done that
And definitely in that case, what I am saying, if I'm Bev Yanez, is if you see them taking away what is wide for you, immediately look to cut inside and start and like trailing runners. We need you right there to try to pick up
and get Labonta and Hutton a little unsettled.
Yeah. And also just like go down on contact. Take the cards.
Louisville don't have any problem doing that.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think that again, you need to score at some point early-ish in the game to get Kansas City out of whatever they're doing. So overloading and, like win or lose this game in the first 15 minutes is not the craziest strategy against a team that is so much better than you. What I have no faith in is Louisville's ability to hold a lead should they get their lead.
Right. And that is the issue, isn't it? I mean, you can go hell for leather against Kansas City the way you played against Chicago, which, why not?
Absolutely.
Like match aggression for aggression. The problem is the moment you do that, you're leaving yourself open, and who's better than exposing space in transition than Kansas City?
I think forcing Kansas City to play with the ball is the thing Louisville can do.
Yeah.
It won't be as comfortable for Kansas City as how they normally like to play. And you have some big old weapons.
All right, let's move on. Week 16. Orlando comes to CPKC. We haven't said California Pizza Kitchen Stadium this much this season.
I think we've not cursed them that way.
Yeah.
I think we've owed them the respect.
This is maybe one of the more representative games to what might actually occur in the playoffs, whether they face Orlando in the semifinals or they face them in the championship. Maybe they don't face them at all, but a really kind of tight 0-0 where Kansas City is not able to generate an above average amount of chance quality efficiency and just manages to scrape an above average amount of chance quality volume. Shows you that like when the talent spread is a little bit closer, it can be tight. And also this is the game where Barbara Benda got hurt. So the first half of the game, Vlatko Andonovski was very, very aware of how he did not want to give Benda any kind of space. And so the structure, as you can see, was leaving Chewinga a little bit more isolated up top because he wanted Haley Mace, who's playing as a center back for this game, to be really, really tight in the center of the park because you don't want to give Banda an inch.
It was about taking Banda out of the game.
Exactly.
Is that Mace adjustment?
Yeah.
And by the way, good adjustment.
Good adjustment. This is also the only game where the likely optimal 11 of Kansas City were all on the field at the same time. So this is Lorena in goal, Kayla Sharples at center back. Yeah, Haley Mace is a center back, maybe not where you want her necessarily, but You get Izzy Rodriguez at left back. You get Labonta and Hutton in the middle, Dabinia at the 10, and then Bia, Chewinga, and Cooper across the front. This is the only game this season, the entire season, where that's happened.
I mean, I remember watching this game. This game is marked by the Banda injury.
Yeah.
I think the thing that's most salient here about this game is Orlando generated nothing.
Yeah.
Orlando generated absolutely nothing.
This is
0.2
also
XG, absolutely nothing.
This is wet bulb gate as well. So
Yes.
it's important to remember that. And I'm sure Orlando would want to lean on that as the reason why they never really got back in their groove, because of the extended delay and the heat. And that's probably some of it, but it's definitely not all of it.
No, I think it's fair to say don't extract a lot from this game.
No.
But also, and we said that at the time, but also, you know who didn't extract a lot from this game? Orlando.
So if you're Orlando, if you're a bandaless Orlando, how do you beat Kansas City if you face them in the semis or the championship?
Well, what are you good at? You're great defensively. You have good defensive organization, and Ali Watt is sort of emerging as your talismanic figure now that Banda is
Not for much longer.
Yeah, not for much longer. She's off to the 14ers or whatever, the summit. But for now, you have her, and she is your primary offensive tool. You probably are using her not dissimilarly from how we just talked about Louisville. Which is to say, use her to pin fullbacks back and to try to create space in behind with that. But I think if you're Orlando, you're really leaning on the fact that you do have good defenders who are efficient, good defenders, and you're just trying to stifle this game into non-existence.
Yeah.
And you're nil-nilling this in penalties.
Yeah.
I don't think Orlando has the offensive. Again, can you grab a set-piece goal? Can you grab a counter-attacking goal? Orlando would prefer to play with the ball more than Louisville. But, against Kansas City, it's like what Orlando did well in this game is really limit big chances. And I think that they can do that again.
Yeah, it's the attacking firepower that you worry about. Like, what depth do they have beyond Watt?
Yeah, what they won't be able to do is what they did in the playoffs last year, which is overwhelm with Barbara Banda.
Right.
And now that they are essentially neutered as far as an attack is concerned, they have to go and rely on that championship-winning defense as well. And that's not easy.
No.
So I given the form, given the quality of these two teams, I probably prefer Louisville ever so slightly over Orlando to get a result, but I don't think either's a very high likelihood of getting anything off of these. We have not talked about a team that I suspect will beat Kansas City yet. Again, anything can happen. It's a one-off.
Yeah, the next game is going to be the closest. Very recent game, just a few weeks ago, and both on scoreline and on personnel available pretty broadly, you can say this is as close as it might get to a playoff preview. Yet, having said that, Chewinga wasn't there.
Let's emphasize the fact that Kansas City wins the XG in this game basically 2-1, 2 to half a point.
Oh yeah, they absolutely blow by Washington on every chance, quality, volume, efficiency, the quality chances that they put up. Yeah,
exactly. And that still was only enough to grab a draw.
Yeah, but I think maybe what's interesting to point out is just how close Washington were able to play it, at least for 45, 60 minutes. It was a funny shape, mostly because subs came on early, but also you're accounting for all of the very wide attacking weapons that Washington can throw at you. So you can sort of see how the shape is really pulled over to the left-hand side to deal with the Rosamund Kwasi danger. And a lot of the passing volume is actually going through Izzy Rodriguez just to try and create an overload, knowing that the right side's probably gone, and Sentner is not the player you want to be in the most advanced spot if you're looking to score goals.
I mean, it says enough that this is a game that they've started Ali Sentner.
Yeah.
That will not be a thing that I think you see in the playoffs.
No. Again, Dabinia on the bench, trying to get her some rest, trying to get her some rotation. They thought there was the potential for winning the Shield this game. It didn't happen. It happened the week after. So yeah, it's yet another indicator that you can throw a lot at Kansas City, and Kansas City can have their biggest tools not unavailable, and you still kind of can't get at them in any legitimate way. But let's also play the intellectual exercise, because Washington, I think it's fair to say, is the second best team in the league this year.
No question.
How do they do it? How do they get past them?
I mean, Washington has dual weapons in the way that we've just been describing. So much of what Kansas City has done well has been about fullback solidity and then stay-go fullback contribution to the attack. Where Kansas City can run into problems here is that you can pin both fullbacks back with Rosamond Kwasi and Trinity Rodman. Like, that's two of the best wingers in the league. And then you have Gift Monday, who is one of the better strikers in the league at this point, and she creates problems for you. And Croy Bethune running in between the lines. Washington still has questions about what to do with that midfield. That said, they also have 4 creative attackers who, when played together, you can't sort of isolate or singularly focus on.
It is a testament to Andonovski and his Central Defense Corps' tactical sophistication this year that there have been multiple center back permutations coming in and out of Kansas City's lineup because of injury and availability. So none of them have been really tested in any legitimate way. And while that's great, it still should be noted that Kayla Sharples is injured right now. Elizabeth Ball has been in and out. Gabby Robinson is not too far removed from a long injury layoff. Obviously, Alana Cook isn't here at the moment because of a very early season ACL tear. So what is going to be the combination that Andonovski is going to rest on, pending potential health? And is there maybe a wrinkle that you can expose because they're the one unit on the field that hasn't had the same level of playing time together?
Yeah.
Say you compare it to like Hutton and Labonta or some components of the front four, Yeah. And especially when you are Gift Monday and Croy Bethune, who could feast on any weaker central defensive unit.
Yeah, I think everything for Washington here is about making sure that they play within themselves defensively. I don't know if you can start Hal Hirschfeld in this game. I don't know if you can take the yellows.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can take the mediocre passing.
Yeah.
Which then makes you pretty lightweight.
I was going to say the domino effect is, well, do you take Deborah Abiodun off of right back and move her inside? And then you have to bring Kate Wiesner in to play with Gabby Carl. That's not great.
Ideal.
Paige Matire is just coming back from a long injury. Is she ready to step up in a starting role in the playoffs? And then if you take Deborah Abiodun and keep her out on the wing, then what, are you bringing Lacey Santos in? And then you have the vroom midfield, even with Naomi Miura there.
Which isn't the worst thing in the world if you're trying to jump this team.
Yeah.
And that's a valid strategy here. But I just think player by player, person by person, Washington is just a less polished version of Kansas City right now in terms of 4 primary attackers, supplemented by some form. They tend to grab their sort of supplemental attacker from the middle of the park as opposed to out wide. Mm-hmm. But I just worry that Washington kind of isn't together enough to beat them. But if you ask me to pick a team that could beat Kansas City in the playoffs, it's probably Washington in the final.
Yeah, they got the best shout. I mean, they're 18% to win the championship. That's second place behind Kansas City's 56% odds to win the championship at the moment.
What do you want?
All right, week 21, the game they clinched the Shield at home to one of the only opponents that had beaten them on the road earlier in the year, Seattle. I don't know what exemplifies 2025 Kansas City and 2025 Seattle better than some of the numbers you're looking at here. Even when you can kind
Seattle
of
take no shots until they concede a goal.
And also, you sort of manage Kansas City's attacking output. They're above average on chance, quality, volume, and efficiency, but not so egregious. And still, they manage 4 quality chances, and you get absolutely nothing in the other direction.
Yeah, we can include Seattle in here, and I think the answer, I'll just answer this real quickly. The way that Seattle win this game is they ride some luck, and Claudia Dickey and they attempt to play very little offense.
Yeah.
And they either grab a penalty or some set piece or whatever, and then they just put 11 behind the ball, and Kansas City has a poor finishing day and can't find space.
Which by
the way, that could happen.
And that's how Kansas City played them. I mean, you can see just how advanced they are and how hard they are pushing up. And again, this is a lineup where Cooper was hurt, Bia Zanerato, Lola Bonta, and Haley Mace all started on the bench, and still they just were pretty relentless.
Yeah. Again, I just don't. Seattle is not a team that we have just described how they would do this. It's a Mourinho-y style, and like that can happen it's knockout football. It can absolutely happen. And I think Seattle would probably not feel bad about having to alter any sort of game plan to deal with Kansas City. They would do the thing that they do.
Yeah. The one thing that they have to worry about is making sure that they are better penalty takers than their opposition. And there's no way that you can know that.
Yeah.
As much as Laura Harvey seems to be convinced that that's how they're going to do it, there's no way you can know that.
I mean, it comes down to the fact that like Lorena is also a good goalkeeper.
Better than Dickey, as a matter of fact.
I mean, penalties aside, like we don't, and maybe that's Louisville too. Maybe Jordan Bloomer just continues her penalty incredibly hot streak that definitely isn't sustainable.
Right.
But does so in shootouts. Look, Seattle has astounded and confounded many a time this season, and they absolutely can do it. I don't want.
Sure.
59% is not a lock for a championship. And Seattle is the exact kind of annoying team that can get in your way.
Yeah, 56%, but who's
56%, whatever.
Yeah, but also, I mean, I think why I also wanted to use this game to talk through some of this stuff is like Seattle played a low block. Seattle tried to shell and tried to bunker in, and it didn't work because this is what you usually would do on a team that really wants to press their advantage the way Kansas City likes to, and it still didn't work.
Yeah.
Simple as that. Final game was the weekend's match against Gotham. We talked a little bit about it at the top of the show. Gotham, I believe, is 14% with their championship odds. So they're another team that like could be sniffing around a shot at beating Kansas City. They have the defenders. They have a very good defensive record. I believe they're second place in the league in XG allowed at this point.
Yeah,
behind
I mean, they're
Kansas
tough.
City. Jalen Howell is Jalen Howell. And you can see they did not allow too much offense from the current over the weekend.
They just also happened to ship a goal relatively early, and that pretty much ended the game. And certainly the second goal ended the game. I think if you're a Gotham supporter, you're probably just looking at what happened as finishing luck that Kansas City benefited from, and maybe that's real.
The Chewinga goal was not finishing luck.
It wasn't. And frankly, Bia towers and wins that header. That said, Gotham is a credible opponent, and I think will offer. None of these teams are like neither Washington or Gotham are pushovers.
Yeah,
both can play credibly. I think Gotham has a lot more trouble generating offense, which will be important to not drag this thing to penalties. But I think Gotham's pathway toward any version of success here is so much built upon stifling this game into non-existence.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how they do it. Especially when
I don't know how Gotham.
It's all Midge Person Esther, and you don't have any other potential outlets along the front line anyway. Like Jason Gabi Portillo, I think, are just really, really critical to ensuring that they have multiple options across the field that your opposition can't just automatically key in on Esther and then force Purse to try and take a shot. Yeah, for example.
Rose Lavelle operating between the lines and Jaden Shaw are where I think you can create real problems for Labonta and for Hutton.
Yeah.
That said, nobody's done it yet. It doesn't mean it can't be done. but nobody's really like shown a sustainable way to beat Kansas City.
Yeah, you've brought up set pieces a couple of times.
Important in knockouts,
always important in knockouts, but I actually like pulled all of the free kicks that teams have taken in the final third or closer, plus all of their corner kicks, and then pulled all of the XG that they've generated from corners and free kicks, just to figure out like on a per set piece level, not on a per set piece shot level, but on a per set piece level, how much XG you're getting out of those events.
Yeah, I'm sure the answer is very little.
Yeah, I mean, Louisville is 5th place in the league, 0.10 XG per set piece. And Gotham is 0.06, which is 11th. And Washington, 0.15, first, amazingly, because they've got good free kick. They got good dead ball specialists out in the free kick zones.
Yeah, by the way, this is where Lacey Santos steps up and becomes like a real...
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean you start her, but she's a real problem off the bench.
Yeah, meanwhile, Seattle is bang average on 0.09. And Orlando, this is the thing that I think Orlando will really have to worry about. Not only are you without Barbara Banda, not only are you bringing a weakened Marta back into the system, but you're 13th place on XG per set piece this year, 0.05. The only team worse is San Diego because San Diego doesn't care about set pieces.
And what is Kansas City?
They are 0.09, middle of the road. Like, that is going to be a point of concern, I think, for some teams. And it also should demonstrate that, like, if you are banking on grabbing a set piece, again, Seattle, right, 0.08, just slightly below average, like, no one has a demonstrable advantage on most of their opposition in this space, except maybe for Washington if they get a free kick within the final third.
We began with the idea that there was theoretically a way to beat this Kansas City team. I think the real answer is it's going to be very challenging for whoever attempts it.
Yep.
And it could happen, but if you gave me the bet right now, Kansas City wins the league or literally any other team, I'm probably still taking Kansas City.
And again, doesn't mean like 56% to win a championship means that 44% of the time you don't win it.
Yeah, and
But we should also note that, like,
by the way,
nobody gets 56% championship odds in any team sport ever.
It rarely happens.
So in
any salary capped team sport, this never happens.
This is a better team than the 2014-2015 Seattle Reign clubs. They are better than the 2016 to 2019 Western New York Flash, North Carolina Courage run. They are better than the Portland Thorns of the Sophia Wilson, Morgan Weaver years.
You can just say any iteration of the Portland Thorns.
Yeah, they are better than any iteration of the Portland Thorns. They are better than 2023 Gotham. They are better than 2024 Orlando Pride. We've just never seen a team that has done what Kansas City has done this year in the regular season. And I do want to underline, they are the best regular season team of all time. Free to debate otherwise once the playoffs are over. But with 56% championship odds, you never see championship odds that high in team sports ever, except, as you have said a couple of times, like Barcelona women in Liga FA or something like that. So hope is not lost for Washington, Gotham, Orlando, Portland, Seattle, and San Diego and Louisville. It's just that, like, the hill that those teams have to climb to get there is steeper than any other team has ever faced ever before.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
We wait with great interest for how any team might be able to beat the most dominant regular season team in NWSL history. In the meantime, thank you so much for listening. This has been a fun one. This is the next phase of xOG under construction. Hope you enjoyed it if you watched it on video. If you have not joined our Patreon, please do so. Click on the link in the show notes. For $6 a month, you can get a bunch of exclusive bonus content, including both the video and the audio versions of the main feed program, ad-free. $6 a month gets you the ad-free show as well as a bunch of other cool stuff. Click the link in the show notes and join Patreon today. Sign up and follow us on social media at xOwnGoals. That's the letter xOwnGoals, including our relaunched YouTube and Instagram pages, as well as TikTok and Blue Sky. The Anatomy of series is on hiatus after its first 5 episodes, but there is going to be some cool content related to that and some other things coming to you very, very shortly. Follow us on any of your podcatchers of choice, rate us 5 stars, drop us a nice review. It really helps the show out. We do appreciate it. And if you believe we've made an own goal, and I'm sure we probably have.
Oh, God, we owe a couple.
We actually do owe a couple. One of them was the reason Rachel Kunananji was on the bench was because of yellow card suspension. It wasn't because of any potential off-field friction between her and Albertine Montoya, so it's important to clarify that. And then there was one other that was definitely mine that I have to own. What was it?
Another own goal was that Portland and Seattle have faced each other.
Oh, thanks. That's it. That's it. Yes. I said that Portland and Seattle had never faced each other in the playoffs. Of course, they had faced each other in the 2018 semifinal, which Portland won and got them to the 2018 championship. I've also realized that the reason I block that out is that in my mind, I just always have it that Vlatko Andonovski only got to the playoffs with Seattle once, and that was 2019, which was much more memorable because he basically did it with a lineup composed of like sticks and glue. So 2018, I've just completely blocked out. And also 2018 was just all about the courage.
Yeah, we just
at the end of the day.
Own goals.
It happens.
They happen.
So,
we make mistakes. They're our own goals.
Portland and Seattle, the last time they faced each other in the playoffs. Anything on your end?
I'm sure. I'm going to compile a list. Anything we've missed, we will catch next week.
End of season own goals is always a good, fun episode to do. But yes, if you think we've made an own goal, expectedowngoals@gmail.com. That's the letter expectedowngoals@gmail.com. Back with you on Patreon on Thursday, and we'll be with you on main feed on Tuesday.
Bye.